Hello. For the next few minutes, we are going to take a look at the steps that are involved in completing the Patron Purge. I'm going to be demonstrating on the screen how you manipulate all of the fields and do all the sorts and whatnot to get your database set up for the current year. And as we're going through, I'm going to explain what you're doing so that hopefully the processes make a little more sense. So the reason we do the Patron Purge every year is because Atrium is continuously supplied with patron records through Aspen. Aspen is continually giving Atrium information to keep those patrons up to date. But what Aspen does is only feed Atrium new patrons and overwrite current patrons. It does not remove any old patrons. The information only flows one way from Aspen into Atrium. So what we have at the beginning of a school year is we have our current patrons in there. We have our kindergartners or our 7th graders or our seniors or whatever grade band you're in. But we also have lots of patrons left in there from last year. Some of those patrons are okay because they were present last year and they've simply been promoted up to the next grade. Some of them, however, are not okay because they are not at your school anymore or when they were promoted to the next grade, that actually moved them up to a different school. For instance, your 5th graders went to middle school, or your 8th graders went to high school, or your seniors graduated. And we don't need those patrons to linger in our databases anymore because they won't be interacting in our libraries. So this Patron Purge allows us to get rid of any patron record that is no longer active at our school. Now, if you have watched the Patron videos, you probably got some ideas about how completing this Patron Purge is much easier than going through your entire database, class by class or student by student, deciding whether a patron needs to stay or be deleted. This Patron Purge allows you to do those things in a couple of big processes and save a lot of time and thought. So we'll go ahead and get started and see how this works. So the Patron Purge is essentially divided into 2 phases. Phase 1 happens on any day that you decide to initiate the Patron Purge. It's really short and simple. Overnight, after Phase 1, Aspen will once again, just like it always does, it will feed Atrium correct patron data. And overnight, Atrium is going to respond to that patron data by sorting students into the groups they're supposed to be in. So we're going to make it easy for Aspen and Atrium to find those folks by putting all of your students, whether they're current, whether they're last year seniors, whoever they are, all of your students into one big class. And we're going to call that class Withdrawn. So it's just as if we had a teacher named Withdrawn and we shifted all of our patrons into his or her class. So here's how we do it. We are going to go to Patrons and we're going to reclassify them. Now what we're going to be doing, remember I said we were going to put all of these patrons into one gigantic class. And a class in Atrium is a patron report class. Those are our teachers' names. Those are how our students are grouped. So that's what we're going to be changing. I'm going to select Change Patron Report Class. And on the drop down over here, I can choose how I want to distribute these kids. I want to distribute them all to the Withdrawn class, which is what we said before. We're going to put them in one huge class called Withdrawn. So I'm going to click there. And I've just told Atrium, hey, all of these student records that I'm about to throw at you, you're going to put them all in the Withdrawn class. That will not be a problem for Atrium, except there's one more step we have to complete, and that is we have to tell Atrium which kids do we want to change to the Withdrawn patron report class? Well, for our purposes, it's going to be all of them. So we need to filter the patrons, and we need to tell Atrium, hey, all of our students need to go into this new withdrawn category. Now, when you look on this screen, there's no place that you can just click all students. When I look at patron report classes, I have all of these that I would either have to do individually, or I would have to build a really sophisticated advanced filter to catch all these kids. I'm thinking that a better way to do that will be by selecting students according to their patron circulation class. Now, we're not changing the patron circulation class. Remember, we're only changing the patron report class. What we're thinking here is that, hey, I noticed that all of my kids, see, I still don't have one that just says student, but I do have lots of student groups here. All of my kids are going to fit somewhere, either in the kindergarten and first grade group, or the second, third, and fourth grade group, or the fifth grade group. All of my students are going to fit somewhere in there. So I'm going to select these three in order to grab all my students. That's going to be much quicker than having to select all of these classrooms in order to grab all my students. So I'm just coming up with the simplest way to tag every student that I have, and we're going to do it through patron circulation class. Now, in Atrium, you cannot choose multiple items from your drop-down. We can't do a control click and select all three of these at once. So we could go through and do this 3 times, one time for this group, one time for this group, and one time for this group, or we can use our handy dandy advanced filtering, which is what we're going to do. So I'm going to click advanced filtering. Remember, I was working with patron circulation class, so that is the data type I need to pull up. And for the qualifier, I would like equals, because equals always gives me my exact choices. I don't have to guess about what needs to be typed into the search terms. So I've got patron circulation class equals grade 5. Okay, that's one of the groups I want, so I'm going to accept that. I'm going to click add new, but I'm not finished because I've still got lots of other groups to catch too. So I'm going to go back up here. Okay, it held patron circulation class and equals. Now I'm going to get those second, third, and fourth graders. Click add new, and I've got one more group. It's the kindergarten and first grade group. Add new. Now, you know about Boolean logic. You know that currently this filter is going to look for any student that is in 5th grade and 2nd grade and 3rd grade and 4th grade and kindergarten and 1st grade. And you have 0 students who belong in all of those grades, right? So we're going to toggle these ands to ors. And now our filter is accurate. We want a kid who can be in 5th grade, or they can be in 2nd grade, or 3rd, or 4th, or kindergarten, or 1st. And that's exactly what we want. That covers all of our students. Notice we're not doing staff. This is simply for students. So now that I have my filter set, I hit Generate List. It takes it a minute to think. And here are all of the students that will be reclassified. They're not ready yet. I haven't hit the go button, but these are the students that were pulled up from that filter, the ones in K1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So what I do now is I look at that and I think, yeah, that number sounds about right, or if it's way, way, way lower than your average population at school, you might want to go back and try it again to make sure you've caught everyone. You just want to look at it and see if it's kind of in the ballpark of your school. And then I'm going to hit Reclassify Patrons. Right now, it's taking all of those kids that were on the screen, and it's taking their patron report class and writing withdrawn in there. So when this gets through running and I check the withdrawn patron report class, I should see at least 155 students in there. If there were already some students in there from maybe last year or year before, the number could be higher. So I just wanted to explain why you might see a discrepancy there. You might not see exactly 155. Let's check and see. So I'm going to reports. I'm going to look at a patron summary now. So that's in statistical reports, patron summary. And when this first comes up, it has patron circulation classes listed. That's not what I want to see. I want to see report classes because that's what I manipulated. I changed the report classes to withdrawn. So, yep, there are 195 students there. So that tells me that I put 155 in today. There must have been already about 40 in there. And that is perfectly fine. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. Now we stop here and we have to let the patron import run overnight tonight. Tonight, these students who are in withdrawn, they're going to be resorted out into these correct patron report classes. Aspen's going to look at these records and is going to say, no. This kid's not in withdrawn. He's in Miss Walker's class. This kid's not in withdrawn. She's in Mr. Ross's class, and so on and so forth until all of your current students are sorted back out. During the second phase of the Patron Purge, which will be coming up in just a couple of minutes, I'll explain what to think about, what happens with the students who are left in withdrawn. So stop here, let it run overnight, and then come back tomorrow and complete the next phase of directions.